welcome to the Dialogue Test Equipment Toolbox Talk. My name is David Sweetman and I'm the Marketing and Business Development Director for the Dialogue Group. Today I'm joined with Chauvin Arnoux Peter Halloway, our resident expert for anything energy efficiency and monitoring. Do you want to say hello, Pete?
Yeah, morning all.
Thanks, Pete. Well, both Pete and myself will be chatting today about energy efficiency and covering frequently asked questions on the fundamentals of energy monitoring. We're also going to take a quick look at some of the equipment available and setup. And our aim really isn't to go into too much detail because we really could be here all day talking about this particular subject, but to give you a little snapshot on the basics of what you need to implement this process into your testing regime. But before I start, I just want to give a quick short introduction to the Dialogue Group of companies, and I'm sure Pete wants to do exactly the same as well. The Dialogue Group was formed in 1998 with its founder member, Dialogue Test Equipment. The group now incorporates Rico Calibration, Dialogue Solar and Instrument Hire UK with a national sales team of 7 people. Pete, do you want to give a quick introductory?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Dave. So Chauvin Arnoux, French company, founded in Paris over 125 years ago. We've got 10 subsidiaries worldwide, 8 production sites, 6 R&D departments, an annual turnover of over 100 million euros. More importantly, though, in the UK, our headquarters is based in Dewsbury, and we've got a catalogue absolutely full of test and measurement equipment. We've got fantastic knowledge and technical backup as well. Thanks, Dave. Back to you.
Excellent. Thanks, Pete. So what are we going to be discussing in this particular session today? So we did discuss all different types of energy, for example, active power, apparent, relative, but we decided to leave this to one of our more future focused events. So keep obviously tuned in and post this to us for any updates in the future. But what we are going to be talking about is harmonics and power factor, phase balancing. And more importantly, we'll take a look at some of the energy loggers available and how easy they are to set up and get going. So Pete, really what I'm going to base this particular session on is some frequently asked questions that I get asked, and I know my team do, at Dialogue regarding energy efficiency and monitoring. But we have specific companies ask us why their power factors changes during period or the same periods or different periods of the same day. And it does say, they also sometimes say it does tend to get worse.
Okay. All right. Well, that's obviously there's two related but distinct areas there. So let's look at power factor changing throughout the day. And sometimes I think I'll probably speak to the customer and ask if they've installed any new equipment, because that could give obvious clues as well. Because I mean, this is probably going to simply be loads coming on, different loads throughout the day. Why the power factor is effective, then I mean, if you've got large inductive loads, typically motors coming on, typically in like a production environment, or maybe even things like induction furnaces, then they are going to have an adverse effect on the power factor. Also, maybe consider things like shift patterns, Dave. That could be a consideration. It might be certain shifts do certain tasks using certain equipment that, again, affects the power factor. Or it might be that local council has put certain restrictions on the business, especially if they're located close to a residential area, that they can only use certain equipment during certain hours, of course. I think there's one other thing worth mentioning before I answer the second part, and that's also there could be seasonal changes. HVAC systems running, especially if they're the more efficient VSD drive driven HVAC systems, so they're going to be off for a lot of the time, but obviously come the winter time things are going to start kicking in, and that might have the same type of effect as well. Going on to the second part of the question, and that was power factor getting worse over time. Well, I'd probably ask if they've got power factor correction, and we can perhaps touch on that, or if not today, on another occasion. But effectively, power factor correction is a bank of capacitors put in parallel with the load to counteract that inductive load to help with the power factor, hence power factor correction. Now, the capacitors themselves, think of them as two parallel plates, and they've got a substance between, and that's known as the dielectric, and it could be air, it could be something else, but typically that will degrade over time. Now, speaking to power factor manufacturers, some of them will tell you, well, yeah, it could be every 3 years. I think speaking to some of the guys I know in industry, more likely to be 10 years. If it is degrading over 3 years, there might be other things. Harmonics could be having a detrimental effect on the capacitors, because things are happening at different frequencies to what it was originally designed for. So that could be the issue there, but that's perhaps another topic is in itself. But hopefully that's answered your question, Dave.
Yeah, it does actually, and as I say, this is a frequently question that we get asked quite a lot, and it's a very thorough answer, really much appreciated. But you do talk about harmonics. Do you reckon you could perhaps give us a little bit more information on harmonics? And it's often that somebody get asked, should individuals be logging harmonics as part of their energy monitoring session? Is this something that you would recommend, or could you advise on?
Okay, yeah. Harmonics are becoming more and more of a problem. So I suppose it's why are they caused? Well, it's down to what we would call non-linear load. So I'm looking around to grab what's not visible, but typically a phone power supply that will have they're light, aren't they? They're lightweight nowadays.
Yeah, they are.
And that's because they've got switch mode power supplies in. So they're not the old transformer driven sort of power supplies, the linear loads. So they cause harmonics. LED lighting can cause harmonics. So to answer your question, when it comes to the standards, then total harmonic distortion is what's in the standard, and there's certain levels, 4 or 5%, depending on the harmonic. But when it comes to individual harmonics and looking at the current harmonics, then it's what we call the signature. You can look at a waveform, and an experienced power quality engineer will look at a waveform and say, oh, that's got third and that's got fifth in it. And they'll also know that fifth harmonics, for instance, will be down to variable speed drives with 6 diodes in there. So that will typically cause fifth and seventh harmonics. So by capturing those individual harmonics, it gives you a clue as to where the problems are coming from and what you might need to put right. So not only can you help the customer, but you're also going to pick up more business as a result, Dave. So hopefully that's shed a little bit of light, but it is a massive subject which we could talk for many hours on.
I know, exactly. That's right. You talk about harmonic orders. Did you at this stage? Did you want to have a quick explanation what the harmonic orders are exactly? Or
yeah,
another subject maybe. I don't know, for another time. It's
No, it's worth. No, you're right. I mean, I make assumptions all the time, and yeah, it is right to.
Oh, we both do.
Explain it. Some guys will know, some guys perhaps won't. So harmonic orders. Then we talk about the third, the fifth. If we talk about the fundamental. Most of us know in the UK the fundamental frequency of our supply is 50 hertz. That's known as the fundamental. The second harmonic is 100 hertz. The third is 150 hertz. You can see the pattern, Dave. Yes. So it's going up and up. So in 50 hertz increments, obviously in the US it will be in 60 hertz increments. But yeah, that's what fundamentals are. Sorry, I said fundamentals. That's what the harmonic orders are. The fundamental is, of course, 50 hertz.
Absolutely, that's right. Thank you very much for that. Explain that, Pete, in not too much detail as well. But as I say, we could go on all day with this particular subject. So we touched on sort of power factor and harmonics. The other question that does tend to come up, and it's the more frequent out of all of them, is phase balancing, which I guess everyone understands, but are there problems if phases are not balanced correctly?
Oh, absolutely, Dave. Again, these, I say to anyone, I'll go out in industry and put a tester on, and you see these problems all the time. And I think one of the problems is you used to have the electrical manager, maintenance manager. I sort of refer to him as Fred. I don't know why Fred. It could be Dave, Pete, John, anyone really. But you used to have that time-served apprentice, didn't you, that owned that installation and they knew what was going on in that installation and woe betide you if you dare put any load on any phase without Fred knowing about it. So they would make sure that the phases were balanced. And it's really important because if you've got a voltage unbalance, then it can give up to 10 times current in that phase for, say, a fully loaded motor. So you could have 10 times more current in that phase. So why could that be a problem? Why you could have burnt out windings. You could have a mechanical vibration because you've got more current flowing in one of the three phases in that motor. So then you could get premature bearing failure. And of course, these unbalanced currents, where do they go? Well, they go down the neutral. And of course, the neutral is a smaller conductor. So you do get burnt out neutrals. You do get burnt out neutrals at the start point at a transformer. Then we're talking a lot of money to put these things right. So yeah, phase imbalance can be a really, really big problem, Dave.
Yeah, well, it must be. It's definitely some food for thought there, Pete, and some very interesting analogies. So what concerns me specifically on this particular subject is that it does sound like it sounds like the factory industrial locations across the country. A lot of them are probably suffer from this, and it's part of their installation. And it is unbalanced. But I suppose unless you're monitoring these types of installations, you'll never know what the true extent is of the issue, and that's why it's really, really important.
Yeah.
Energy monitoring and phase balancing particularly as well. And again, I've attended several seminars with yourself, Pete, now, and it's all, one thing that always sticks in my mind, and you mentioned it earlier on before, is the non-linear loads. And of course, a great example of this would be an installation of LED lighting from the old incandescent or fluorescence from yesteryear. And the ironic thing is although there are huge energy savings by adding sort of LED lighting into an installation, the implications of non-linear loads like LED can cause really poor power factor. And then it's just absolutely huge, and it's phenomenal how much of this is out there.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. And interesting enough, LEDs typically will be a capacitive load, so they help in that respect. So they might not give you a power factor issue. They're more likely to be causing harmonics, and LED lighting would be typical third harmonic issues. So yeah, it's just something to bear in mind. Actually, some of the better manufacturers will put, I believe it's a power factor rating or the power factor actually on the packaging, so you can look and you can see if it's going to have a detrimental effect or if it's good. So probably worth looking out for when you're shopping around for your LEDs. It can really be false economy to put cheap stuff in.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I never knew that with an LED lighting actually, where the quality of the LED was actually printed on the side of the packaging. That's something I'll definitely look out for next time I'm in the market for that sort of thing as well. Well, perhaps that's enough of us chatting for a few seconds. I don't know whether you've got a PEL 103 with you that you wanted to show us very quickly, just to sort of image what it looks like and.
Absolutely, yeah. One here, Dave. I've always got one with me. What do you mean?
I know you never leave home without it.
It's never more than 2 foot away, Dave. That's old money, isn't it? Shall we say almost a metre? Anyway, so forgive the pun. So here's a PEL 103. We can see that it's fairly slimline and flat in its nature, because the idea is with these magnetised cases, I mean, everything's magnetised. I'll come onto this, but you can tell it's magnetised. It will stick on a large industrial board. It will stick on the inside of a distribution cabinet, because of course you want to put it away, close it away, and away you go. So this is what it looks like. I don't tend to operate it from the screen itself. It's good to see things on the screen, and some of the LEDs are useful on there, of course. But I always set these up and interrogate them with either an Android tablet, which there's one. This is the one that comes in the full kit. This is a little Lenovo tablet. But yeah, I set them up with either a tablet or a PC because I just find it much easier. It's quite hard. And in fact, you can't do certain things by just using these 4 buttons. So that's what it looks like. And we've got the voltage and the current connections there. Talking about the current connections, one of our factories, I think it's in Normandy, we make Rogalski coils. These are what Rogalski calls a nice flexible connection, and so much easier. You think of cables coming down tightly bunched, trying to get a traditional clamp meter around is pretty difficult. So these are much, much easier. Probably won't see it on the screen there, but on this side, just take my word for it, there's an embossed arrow and that points towards the load. So just a little tip there. But yeah, Rogalski coils really useful. The kit also comes with a couple of these reeling cases, which are really handy for keeping your voltage leads nice and tidy. And you see I've labelled mine up because we provide a load of little coloured markers which go on things like that, and you may have noticed them on colour code. And we do emboss on there V1, V2, V3, but you know what it's like. You're in a dark place, you're under pressure. We just want to do what we can to help make people's lives easier. We also have these. These are really handy. These are for the voltage connection. You get 3 red and 1 black. That's a magnetized probe. So, that's lucky. I've got one here. Look, here's a switch, domestic switch, and then that's making that connection there. So that's nice and useful and secure. So there's the magnetized probe. So yeah, that's what it looks like. Obviously, it comes in a bag, Dave, and the kit also comes with the data view reporting software, and also I didn't show it, but there's a power adapter goes on top which uses the voltage that you're measuring to power the instrument up as well. So hopefully that's answered your question, Dave. It
has, Pete. Thank you. I've been on site with these instruments for many years now, and the accessories that are available with the particular PEL kit, which we will come on to a bit later on about the contents of the kit and what's involved and bits and pieces with that. But is it the magnetic the connectors that go on straight onto the screw of the MCB or main switch is critical, especially if you need to connect voltage on to an installation, but you can't interrupt the power supply for any reason. It's absolutely great and fantastic. And if anyone's ever used power monitoring equipment before, especially when you've got three flexible CTs, 4 voltage connections, you do end up with quite a lot of cables here, there and everywhere. So the reeling cables that come as part of the kit to tidy that up really makes the installation a lot safer, a lot more neater as well, so you haven't got lots of cables dangling everywhere. It's great for that. What we're going to do now, Pete, is I'm going to bring a few slides up on the screen. Just going to have a look up how to set the PEL up. So rather than going into too much detail about going through the whole process, I think it would be a good time now to have a look at just a few slides, so you can just give us a little bit of an overview on how to set the device up with a laptop.
Yeah. Okay. So we're using the PEL transfer software. This is a free download anyway. Anyone can have. Customers can have it if you want to send them files as well. So the first screen is so you've connected your PAL up, and this is the configuration screen, and this is the general tab. The thing that I tend to do in here is I will go and make sure that the clock is set. You need to make sure that the onboard clock on the instrument is synchronized with your PC so that it's got the correct date and time, else everything on all your graphs will be out. So that's really important. If there's a load of data on the SD card, you may want to format the SD card. You can see that down at the bottom under the set clock. But that's pretty much all I do on that particular screen. But the next screen, I believe you've probably put up the measurement screen now. couple of things to mention here, really. One is typically this one is set for a 3-phase 4-wire star. You can see that, and it gives you a nice handy little diagram there for the connections. You also notice at the bottom you can select your frequency. I have a habit of selecting 50 hertz instead of just leaving it on auto. I think most people perhaps would leave it on auto. It's just me. Also, if you're testing via voltage transformers, because you may come across that, then there's an area there where you set up the transformation ratios. So that's what that's there for. So that's on that screen. That's all we really need to know on there. The next screen is the current sensor screen. So 2 things really on this one. The most important thing is the range that it's on. People phone me up, excuse me, and ask, well, what range should I set it up? Well, my answer is normally, well, I'm not there on site. You need to determine that. But of course, the clue is normally the size of the main switch. So if I take this one here, this is a domestic installation. It's got a 100 amp switch, so I'd probably set it to 100 amps. In an industrial environment, it may well be 400 amps or maybe more. Underneath you see it says wraps. That's only if you wanted, if you got low currents, then you might want to put a wrap. This is a bit like a transformer, isn't it? Your conductor is the primary, this is the secondary, so you've changed the transformation ratio now by putting a wrap on there. If you do that, then you have to tell the software that you've done it. So by default, it's 1, but if you put a wrap on there, then you would change it to 2. So that's where you do that. These are proprietary type legacy things, not really to worry about the other boxes on there. So we'll move on. Okay, and the final tab then we're going to look at is the recording tab. And there what we've got, well, the session name is important. That's a bit like a file name. Maybe you might use a site name, something like that, to put that in there. And then I normally set it up to automatically start and stop. I just find it easier that way. So if you know you're going on site a certain date, then put that date in the start date, put a time for when you want it to start recording. And then you can put the end date and end time, but it's far easier just to drop the box down and probably select one of the selections there. So in there, you'll find like 1 day, 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month. So you can probably select there and it'll do the end date and time for you. Underneath is the aggregation period. And for a load survey, then it's recognized that you would set that to 10 minutes. You can set it to other aggregation periods, which is a sample rate when it goes and grabs the data. It will also, if you tick the 2 tick boxes beneath, the top one is record 1 second trend for current voltage, etc. That will also give you maximums, minimums, and averages, which is what most people are after. They're not worried if something goes up for a split second or so, because your system is designed for that. But to have an idea what the average is and what the maximum was in that period can be useful. Remember, the tick box below that is for harmonics. So you can see that one there, record individual 1 second harmonics up to the 50th order. And that is what uses more space up. But as you can see, with the green bar at the bottom, this 1 week recording is not taking that much space up on the SD card. So you could probably do a 2-month recording or more with harmonics and still have space on the card. So that's it as far as the setup is concerned. And obviously your last thing to do would be click the OK, and that would then send the data to the instrument and set it all up ready. Then what we're going to do is, I've got a couple of screens now, which hopefully Dave's put up. The first one is, these are just a couple of typical screens. These are real surveys that I've done, taken to places, and they've got their on-site electrician to make the connections, and then we take it off a week later and have a little look. So you can see here we're looking at the first 25 harmonics, and you can see that the 5th are high, the 7th are high, and can you also see there that the 11th and 13th have got some. Now this does correlate with what the manager was saying, because they've got on this particular site, they had quite a lot of variable speed drives, and they had far more 6-diode variable speed drives, which will give you 5th and 7th harmonics, as opposed to the 12-diode variable speed drives, which will give you 11th and 13th. So you can see why you've got more of a problem with 5th and 7th, for instance. Big problem on the 3rd as well, you can see there as well. And of course, the green bar there is the neutral. So you can see those harmonic currents flowing down the neutral. Not good news really for this site. The final screen is just showing you a trend recording, if you like. So that's showing the voltage and the current. And those little buttons, the blue turquoisey color buttons, you can click on those and they'll give you different things to look at, like power factor, energy, total harmonic distortion, frequency. But at the moment, we're looking at RMS voltages, and you can see from that screen, you can see the busy periods. You can also see, I mean, I've got the traditional colors there. They're easier to see, the red, yellow, and blue. You can actually see that there is phase imbalance there. The red phase has got all the single phase loads on it as well. So that's why there's more demand on that red phase. So there is a bit of an imbalance, and that could do with addressing as well. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a snapshot. And on that screen also, you'll just see towards the top with the icons, there's a blue and yellow one that says create report. That tells me that DataView is installed. That's the free package. Well, it's not free. It's actually quite an expensive package, but it does come free with the kit. You click on that and you then create a report, and you can send your customer a PDF report. So that's that. We've also, just at this point, I do like to mention, we'd like to put quite a lot of help, and there's a couple of sites you can go to. There's www.cauk.tv. That's what we call our media channel. There's a load of fantastic technical articles there, but also we've put some little how-to videos there, some short videos on how to set the instrument up. But that's based on you getting a signal, and we was finding that some customers were in the bowels of a building at the distribution board, and they had no signal to watch the video because they wanted to watch it, and oh yeah, that looks right. So what we've done, we've also created a little app which runs on iPhone or Android, and it's called CA Product Assist. And then you can suck all the information into your phone, and then you're not reliant on that signal. So hopefully, Dave, that's covered what you wanted to cover. If not, then we can do more by all means. Or if there's any customers out there that want to know more information, we can also connect via Zoom. And I would invite any UK businesses that want to see one of these and see what problems you've got. I'll happily come along with one of these, and you can get your electrician to connect it up, and you can see for yourself the problems there and then you'll want to log it for a period of time to really find out what's going on. But back to you, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely, Pete. We're both able to go to site. Pete works directly for Chauvin Arnoux, and he's by far the most expert out of the both of us, knowledge-wise and information-wise, and that as well. But there's some really good information there. You've Pete covered looking at setting up and the easiness of setting up the instrument itself. It's some different methods you can set the instrument. As Pete said, the instrument can be set up directly from the unit, but it's far easier to set up via a laptop. You've got the option via the tablet, and the software is very intuitive and very, very simple to use. So it's definitely an asset. But one other feature, obviously, you have got is if the instrument can be set up well in advance of you going to site. So if you know exactly what type of installation that you're going to and when you want to start recording, the instrument can be set ready to go. All you need to do is plug it in, switch it on, and off it goes as well. and Pete obviously did cover the resource of information, as though we spoke about cauk.tv. This website is absolutely phenomenal, especially if you are on site with the equipment or just want to know how to just do a simple task. Everything that you need to know is on here, and the resource that's supplied with this equipment is absolutely phenomenal on there. What I will speak about very, very quickly, and not going into too much detail, is that we did we mentioned earlier on, and we've spoken during this particular event about the PEL 103 energy logger kits. Obviously, the instrument can be bought individually. It can be bought with just the CTs. But what Chauvin Arnoux have actually done is packaged together a fantastic package, which includes the unit itself. And as you can see, there's from the image on the screen here, the features it's got. It's magnetic. It will quite easily tuck into a distribution board or on the side, so it's kept tidy. But the unit itself will measure single phase or split 3-phase installation, so it's quite versatile in that respect. The SD card is supplied with it. The magnetic probes give you the option for non-destructive connection. Obviously, the flexible CTs just unconnect and quite easily clip around the conductors with ease as well. Real-time communication. So the instrument itself has got a LAN connection, so you can interrogate the instrument at any time for any remote source, providing it's connected to a network. But you've also got Bluetooth and USB connections. So if you are using a tablet and you want in the Bluetooth proximity of the instrument, you can quite easily look at the vector diagram, which gives you an idea of just to check that all the phases are all in the correct order. You haven't reversed the phases, although there is indications on the front of the instrument to tell you that if you've got the CTs around the wrong way, which is very common, as Pete said earlier on, the arrow on the side of the CT is pointing towards the load. So that's quite an important statement, and I've been to site many a time to set these up or help people set these up, and it's quite an easy mistake to make as well. The display is very, very clear, so you've got lots of different displays available on the front, although it looks very, very simplistic with only 4 buttons on the front. You can scroll, look at voltages on each phase, current, power, harmonics, power factor as well, so you've got a lot of information on there. But what we've done with the kit is we've supplied it with possibly everything you could possibly need to get yourself set up into energy monitoring or an energy monitoring business as well. So the kit comes with its flexible clamps, magnetic probes. It's got 2 relay boxes, and that will quite easily absorb all the loose cables that you've got loose around the installation. The power adapter is very, very key to this. What it means is that the instrument itself, although it's got an internal battery, but this battery is there for backup only, so it only lasts around 20 minutes. But the instrument actually does need a 230-volt main supply to power it whilst recording for however many weeks or months you want it to record for as well. But the power adapter will enable you to, rather than have to find or have a close by 13 amp plug, it will enable you to use the installation that your monitoring supply to monitor in or to power the device itself. So it's a great asset for that. The PEL transfer software app specifically is only available on Android, so not everybody's got Android. Some people use iOS or Apple devices as their main communication device. So with this kit we do supply an Android tablet as well. The PEL transfer app can be then downloaded from the Google Play Store, installed on the tablet, and then you can set the PEL up from the Android tablet supplied. And as a complete kit we do supply with this data view and analysis software. This takes the reporting one stage further. So the PEL transfer software that comes with the device is very straightforward, and you just saw that from Peter's demonstration there, the reports that could be generated from that as well. If you want to interrogate the information you recorded in a lot more detail, the analysis software will enable you to report back to your client or customer the information of what the installation is doing, and quite clearly report back on what needs to be done to potentially correct that or iron out any issues or save the money ultimately as well. It's all part of the service, and that's all done via data view, and that comes as part of this particular kit as well. Pete, did you want to elaborate anything on what I've said there?
No, I mean just the power adapter itself. I think it's 750 volts, but yeah, you know it's even if you've got phase to phase in there, it's going to still power the instrument. The instrument itself needs 230 volts, but that's all taken care of by the power adapter. Just wanted to make sure. I'm just grabbing something actually. It's possibly a good point. Hopefully you can see it on the screen. We also give this little USB to SD card adapter, because the quickest way to get the data off it is by using that, not the lead. It is quicker to actually use the adapter, especially if you've got a really big file. So I would certainly suggest making use of that in there. So if you wonder what it is, that's what it is. That's what it's used for. And of course the SD card is easily removable, which I didn't show earlier. It's just at the bottom there under the rubber cover, so it's just one of these pop-in sprung-loaded type things. So yeah, just that really, Dave. But no, thanks so much.
Excellent, thank you, Pete. We mentioned at the very beginning of this presentation and throughout, really, there's there's going to be more information. There's going to be more videos that we're going to be recording with our partners at Chauvin Arnoux as well. So what I'm going to bring up very quickly is a registration screen here, and it's a web address directly linked to our website, which enables you to register for information on energy efficiency. Anyone that actually selects this, joins that page, enters their information, will automatically send me an email, and either myself or Peter will respond to you directly with a white paper on energy efficiency. And it's an independent white paper that was conducted by Chauvin Arnoux on case studies and information on energy efficiency. Am I right? Is that right, Pete? What the white paper entails?
It pulls together obviously other sources, not us. So people like British Gas did a survey on SMEs. And other people like the Carbon Trust. So well-known sources were used for this white paper. It would be no use us saying it; it would be far too biased. We used well-known industry sources for that paper.
Okay, so yeah, obviously have a look at that page. Send us your information, and we'll keep you up to date, not only on the white paper, but any future events specifically on energy efficiency. We will let you know exactly what we've got coming up, when it's going to be, so you can keep in contact with us as well. On there, so I've put up on the screen our contact details. If you wish to contact either myself or Peter at any other time, you've got my email address and my phone number, same as Peter as well. His contact details are on there. So if there's any questions that are actually come to mind during this particular presentation, you can just drop us a quick email or make any comments on the video. At the bottom of the screen, any comments you want to make, and we'll respond to them, and we'll respond to you directly if you contact us via any of our other contactable sources as well. So really, I'm going to sort of close up and finish up this this presentation today, if that's okay. Pete, is there anything that you want to mention just to close?
No, really. The obvious thing is, I think both of us, Dave, we like to listen to customers. So take the opportunity of letting us know what other subjects you do want to hear about, and we'll try and tailor something for you.
Absolutely, as well. Okay, well, sort of closing for me, really. I think I'm hoping this has been a very useful presentation or video that you've actually sat through, and I'm hoping you've sort of grasped. Although it's very, very, we didn't go into the ins and outs in too much detail. It's giving you a bit of a snapshot of how relatively simple it is to implement, power analysis as part of your regime as well. You've got a lot of it. The instruments can be set up in advance, so exactly, if you know what the installation is, you've got everything ready to energy monitor, really. But ultimately, the energy monitoring is what remedial work could potentially be picked up on the back end of this as well. So, if it's something that you advertise and get asked for, the type of customers that likely ask for energy monitoring, there could be lots of other work available to you. So not only have you got the energy reporting work that you would hopefully be contacted with if you implement this type of service as part of your regime, is what remedial work you're going to pick up on the back end of actually correcting that or making the installation more efficient than before. And in addition to that is, whilst you're on site, what other work could potentially come your way. So ultimately, it's another sort of feather to your bow, so to speak, energy monitoring, and it can potentially take your business in all sorts of different directions as well. Okay, well, we're gonna finish up here. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you found this video useful. And we'll look forward to hopefully seeing you online some future videos that we're planning on recording. What I will do is I'll leave a registration screen up on there as well. If you need to contact us, just a bit of an overview on our businesses as well. So part of the Dialogue group, you've got Dialogue Test Equipment, Recal, Calibration Services, Instrument Hire and Dialogue Solar. All the website addresses are all on the screen. If you need to contact any of our divisions, that's our websites to look for. You've got the details for myself and Peter. And please don't forget to register for any future events or our white paper. But thank you very much and look forward to speaking to you all soon.
Thank you. Bye.